Yeah, saying no is one thing, accepting no is another thing.
When is the best time to correct your parents?
Either, oh, you want to tell me that you're wiser than me?
That you don't correct your spouse like you're correcting a child.
God is interested in how you wake up in the morning.
There must be a clear demonstration of the power of God.
See, I did high octave and low octave.
You guys are going to enjoy today's episode.
Today.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I climb to the highest mountain.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of UNWALLED, a show where we get to discuss contemporary issues that we don't get to talk about on the pulpit. And today we have the honor of inviting one of us, and a special somebody, a married woman, a poet, a trailblazer, Mrs. Bologi Genome Stephen. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So how does it feel to be on the other side?
It actually feels a bit funny, but I'm good.
Okay, you look good, by the way.
Thank you.
All right, so what did your husband have to say concerning this?
He told me I look good, you know, and all that.
Obviously.
Yeah.
He's a lucky man.
I can't say. He is.
So can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
So my name is Bologi Stephen. I'm a lawyer by training. I'm a teacher of the word. I'm a counselor, relationship and marriage counselor. I'm a TV producer. So yeah, I'm a filmmaker as well. Spoken word poets.
Yeah.
And a few other things. A wife and a mom.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay. So everybody has a story to tell. What's your own story?
My story. Okay. I have a lot of stories.
Okay.
But I think the one that I would say has really impacted my life and, you know, that I would share is my struggle with identity. So, like a lot of us, I grew up in church. I was Sunday school girl, you know, all of that, children choir, everything, all of that. But I think that I did not understand that you can enjoy Christianity, you can enjoy God. So I went through a period where I was trying to enjoy my life. Then when I finish enjoying my life, you know, I'll come back to the church or to God and all of that. But part of the main reasons was I had serious issues with validation and approval and acceptance and identity. So I would tie my identity to a lot of things, to people, to status, to whatever it was. Let me just give a few instances. There was the time when I would tie my identity to who I was in a relationship with. You know, there was periods that I was never single. Like, I'm that person that has a spare and a spare to despair. Just so that in case, you know, because I used to tie my identity to the person. So I would always date people that I would be proud of. Of course, that's what you should be, but that should not be the only reason. So I would attach my entire identity to this person, like, oh, this person is cool, so I'm cool. This person is smart or important, so I'm important because I'm his, you know, girlfriend. So I struggled with that because there were times when some of the, when I say some, sounds like a lot of numbers. That's not necessarily the case. But there were times when, you know, I would like a guy or something, and for some reason, he won't just want to like be serious. And it would really affect me because I would start to ask myself, oh, am I not good enough? Am I not pretty enough? Am I not, you understand those kinds of things? And other times I would attach my identity to a status or to friends, just that struggle of who am I? So that was one of my major struggles in life.
Very interesting. Oh, worthy of note that in your book, Validation, you made mention of a lot of things, but what caught my attention was the fact that people seek identity or validation in a lot of things. So in your book, what were you trying to express to them? What were you trying to tell them? What direction were you pointing them?
So in Validation Junkie, basically, I was just burying myself. Actually, the backstory about this book, which a lot of people don't know, I had started writing another book titled 17 Again, which I don't know if it will ever come out. Because
I was just about to ask you, so when is that
because
coming out?
17 17 years for me was a very interesting year. There were a lot of things I did at that age. There were a lot of firsts and all of that. So I was writing to my 17-year-old self, from the point I am now, to say, girl, that's not it. And as I was writing, I noticed a trend that a lot of the issues I fell into at that age, a lot of the things I did that I shouldn't have done, were because I was seeking to be approved or to be accepted or to be validated by somebody or something. So that's how the book, deviated. So Validation Junkie became like a letter from me to, the brethren or anybody, because validation is not just for young people.
Absolutely.
Anybody, a preacher on a pulpit wants to know, were people blessed? How did they clap when I finished preaching? That means I did well, I did. So anybody really, a letter to people that, like me, struggled with validation, to say, this is what I struggled with. This is how you know that you are struggling with it. This is why it is dangerous. And this is how to come out of it, in summary.
Awesome. So how would you describe how you found your identity? I'm assuming that you found your identity.
I'm assuming that I have to.
Exactly.
Yes, I have.
So if I'm to ask you, how did you discover your identity?
So for me, I would say that it wasn't one moment.
Okay.
It wasn't one eureka moment and I'm like, oh no. It was when I actually started becoming serious with God. When I was like, okay, you know what? This relationship with God, I want to take it seriously. I want to study the word. I want to pray. I want to know God for myself. So what happened was that in every area that I had been seeking validation, he started to, let me say handle me.
Okay.
So for example, the status thing, he would handle me for friendships, for relationship particularly was a serious stronghold, so he started to do all of those things. And in just reading the word and learning God better and spending time with him, I started to know who he said I was, or who he says I am rather, because he still does. So I started to understand that I am loved. I am loved by the person that matters the most. So it doesn't matter if somebody says they don't want me. It doesn't reduce my value. I am still enough because Jesus thought I was enough to die for. I started to understand that there is no condemnation. So even when I would fall, I don't have to stay in that place of guilt and filth and all of that. Now, it wasn't, like I said, one moment. It was a process. And I had to follow the process. And as I just continued to read the word, he just continued to strengthen me in different areas, step by step. And to be honest, it's still a journey. Because I always say that validation is not just a one thing. So for example, in my new season as a mother, right? Sometimes I struggle with validation. Like I want my child to look perfect so that I am validated as a good mother. Because you know how it is now. When you go outside, you're like, where's the child's socks? Why is the child looking,
Everything has to be
everything
put
has
together.
to, and it's a child. The child is not 100% put together all the time. So it's still a journey. I still have to remind myself, you are a good mother and you are being helped by God. So I'm still on that journey and God is still helping me.
Oh, amazing. People have identity crisis, especially in this generation we are, right? So if you're to talk to a younger you in this generation about finding their identity in Christ, so to say, what would you tell them? What would you tell a younger you?
I would tell a younger me that only the designer of a product knows the product in and out. Only the designer, it's like you have a car you've been driving for 5 years and one day you discover, oh, this is what this button does. But if the manufacturer was beside you and took you along the journey, you would see that everything in that car he puts because there is a reason. He understands the car because he made the car. So only God who made us can truly and honestly define you. So we should not get lost in this world and this generation of especially social media. Social media is a slippery slope that if you're not careful, you will go all the way down before you realize. You know, you're comparing yourself, always comparing your worst with another person's best. Always comparing your I woke up like this face with somebody's heavily filtered picture. That is not where you should go. We must first find our identity in who God has said that we are. And then when we do that, we can now reinforce it by having the right environment around us, the right support system. People that speak according to who God says you are. People that when you're having a down moment and maybe you don't even want to pray, the person can say, no, that's not who you are. This is not who. I remember a time one of my friends had to ask, like, am I bad? Am I this? Am I that? Because she was having a low moment and we had to speak into her life. So it's important to also have a support system.
So very, very importantly, you have to have people around you who bring out the best in you, so to say. So talking about time, is there a particular time that one needs to stick by or one needs to walk while they are trying to find their identity in Christ? Is it time?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's a journey, like I said.
Okay.
It's a journey that is, the best time to start is now. It's never too late. That's the beautiful thing. It's never too late. What God said about you yesterday is still what he's saying about you today. So it's never too late to start. And like I said, as you keep growing in life, new layers will keep unfolding and you will keep finding who you are in that season. So you might have fully known yourself as a single person, then you get married. You still go back to the word to reinforce your identity in God as a married person, then in God as a mother, in God as a career person, in God as a businessman. So there is no time where you say, oh, I'm done. Because we are always, we are always becoming. We're always becoming. So it's a journey for us to stay on and, just continue to be on. So
if I hear you correctly, you're saying there's no measure of time when you're dealing with the owner of time, so to say. So your trust has to be with the owner of time. So if, again, so let's recap with this. If you're to talk to a younger you, because in this generation, we have a lot of people who are looking for identity and validation from every other thing but God. So if you're to talk to your generation right now, as we round up, what would you tell them?
Okay, so dear generation, I will tell you that you must go back to God. I cannot overemphasize it. This world does not have the answers. The world is heavily confused. Yesterday, they might like you fair. Today, they want you dark. Yesterday, they wanted you thin. Today, they want you fat. If you rely on people for who you are, for acceptance, for validation, you will be confused. Not everybody will agree with everything that you are and that you do. For some people, you are too much. For some others, you are not enough. But to God, you are just right. He has accepted you. He has loved you. He has validated you. He has approved you. But you can only come into that fullness if you are in Him. That is when you can know for certain, this is who I am. And this is how to live as I am. Because it's one thing to be who you are. It's another thing to realize who you are. If a lion thinks he's a cat, the animals he's supposed to prey and feed on will scare him. Not because he's not a lion, but because he hasn't come into the realization and acceptance that he's a lion. So for you are who God says you are. You already are. But now you have to come into that conscious knowledge and journey in that acceptance that you are validated and you are loved and you are accepted by God.
It's so nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
And there you have it. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment on our episodes, and hoping to have you next time. Bye for now.
I climb to the highest mountain.